So much to get into. Round of 16, full of storylines at Stan Riccio and Blake Price. It's the 90th Minute Daily, and we are a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. There is a lot coming out about the USA versus Belgium match that's going to happen later tonight, which we, as it stands of this moment, 12:01, we are expecting Fuller and Balogun to be able to play in the match, thanks to a helping hand from the head of state, which we will get into.
Stay tuned. By the second, this might change, so we'll see.
There's appeals flying all over the place, but we'll see what happens in the lead up to that one. We'll get to the preview of that. Also, Spain-Portugal, which could be Cristiano Ronaldo's final match for the Portugal national side, as he officially confirmed he will be he will be retiring from international football following this World Cup. But a lot to get into from the weekend and yesterday, and also Canada's exit at the World Cup on Saturday, Blake. But let's start with the match that happened last night. England with a 3-2 win over Mexico, down to 10 men. They were up to 1 in that moment, but they find the next goal via penalty, score it 3-1, and then it's 3-2, and you're just getting headed clearances. I think Mexico was poor in that they just kept crossing balls into the box, and Dan Burn is just heading everything all over the place. It was a wild one. The crowd just makes everything that much more electric at the Azteca, and that continued last night. Incredible win for England.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot with the low blocks lately. When, in this case, an undermanned English side late that is trying to defend a lead. But we see a lot of teams just get stymied creatively. You know, they just can't find a way through that low block. It's difficult. So Mexico didn't have an answer for it. It's too bad because in open play, when the play did open up and when it was 11v11, Mexico was very good. They deserve a lot more than the one goal they got up until that point, ultimately a 3-2 final. But they did deserve more. On the judges' cards, this game, if it can be closer than a one-goal game, it was on the judges' cards. If not a Mexican victory, it's not the way the sport works, unfortunately, but it was a valiant effort in a raucous atmosphere, and it goes down as one of the classics of this World Cup tournament, which is at risk for all the reasons you've already teased a little bit here, Dan. It is at risk of kind of going off the deep end a little bit here, but there's been some real classic matches, and this is one of them.
Never mind what's happening off the field. On the pitch, the games have been and the matches have been incredible. And, yesterday there was just so much in it. And Mexico, they dominated possession early. England was great on the counter. Those 2 Jude Bellingham goals in the space of 99 seconds, I think it was.
Crazy. Just
clinical. And the Mexicans gave England all they could handle there at the Azteca, as was expected. And, you've got Harry Kane scoring from the spot as well. I mean, this England side, now they're going to get Norway in the next round. But, we'll talk about Norway here in a second. But they continue to impress. And Tuchel just seems to have an answer for every scenario that this team can encounter.
Yeah, it's we talked about on the relative scale of things, the English coming into this tournament sort of with lower expectations, not really a pre-tournament favorite per se, and it may have done them well to get to this point. I mean, they are booked into the quarterfinals, and still outside of the London press, I don't know that the world has glommed onto them just yet, and this might be just a perfect sweet spot for them to stun a few people and to finally get the job done. We won't put carts before horses here, but they looked pretty good in a really tough atmosphere I'll call it Azteca, even though it's Mexico City Stadium.
Yeah, Mexico City Stadium. But as we all know it is the Azteca. And tough match. And so we've seen 2 of the 3 CONCACAF teams go out. We'll talk about Canada a little bit later on. For Mexico, a post-mortem here. They played really well throughout the course.
They did.
Of this tournament. I know that they hadn't given up a goal until Jude Bellingham scored that first one for England. But at that time, the run of play was going their way. This was a team and a national team that has kind of been going through it there, especially through the last qualifying cycle, and they've led themselves, it seems like, into a a better direction, one that you expect more of from a nation like Mexico that's got a pretty storied history.
Here's my hot take for today's show. Canada did not rise to the occasion the same way that Mexico and the United States did. And that seems ridiculous to say. Mexico left in the round of 16, same as Canada, but Mexico looked very good. The United States has looked very good. Canada, they left you wanting at times. Honestly, I don't know that Canada ever got onto that last gear all tournament long, and part of that is the absence of Alphonso Davies. We'll get to that a little bit later, but Mexico looked great. I did not expect that out of them. They were whipping the ball around yesterday versus England like they were playing Guadeloupe in CONCACAF at times. Like it was pretty good. So that's a downside for the other nations of CONCACAF that thought that might be getting traction within the conference, because Mexico might be back.
Yeah, Mexico looking really good. Gilberto Mora getting a little bit of a pat on the back, a sign of respect from Jude Bellingham. They swapped jerseys at the end, so that teenager played pretty well in his World Cup debut. England will go on to face Norway in the quarterfinal, as the Norwegians have punched above their weight further than they've ever gone before. I think previously all three of their knockout stage losses in the round of 16 had come at the hands of Italy, but they're able to get by Brazil here. And again, they dominated possession. I wouldn't Brazil did have some pretty great chances. They obviously had the penalty chance as well, which was kind of crazy that Carleto didn't want Vinny to take that one, but that's part of their post-mortem. It was still to take away nothing from the Norwegians. They played really well, and when you've got that guy with the long flowing hair, looks like a Viking, plays like a Viking, scores better than pretty much anybody internationally, he can win you a game in just one brief moment, and that's exactly what happened yesterday.
I don't know that there's much of a comparison in my modern soccer fandom, which granted is more modern than ancestral. I don't have a fandom that goes back to 1950 here, but Zlatan is all I can compare him to in terms of just the split second that you're talking about here. Like he does not need a spell of possession, doesn't need the ball at his feet, doesn't need a dribble. Like, it is just unbelievable how little room you need to give him for him to still burn you. Like it's just incredible. And I don't know that there's a comparable. There's other goal scorers that are as prolific. They just do it in a different way, though. Like Haaland's ability to make something out of nothing is incredible. And he gets both of them for Norway. 34% possession for Brazil is their lowest ever in a World Cup match. And that's an impressive victory over a Brazil team that also had the expectations on the relative scale were on the floor for Brazil going into this event. And Ancelotti under all sorts of fire for waiting for Neymar to be sort of ready. And just their performance in the last cycle here, for the last 3-4 years, has been on their scale abysmal. And ultimately, they got reasonably far here. I mean, I don't know that they need a government inquiry after a round of 16 bowing out, but it's not great for them. And yet they do lose to a team that people thought might go on a deep run like they are.
Yeah, Norway getting into the round, the quarterfinal here. For Brazil, they've still got amazing players littered throughout the squad, but they haven't felt like a Brazil of my childhood in a very long time.
Something missing.
Yeah, it's just even with Neymar leading the charge, he never had the same vibe as a Ronaldo or a Ronaldinho or a Rivaldo did, or even a Romario from the '94 World Cup, which is the one I first one I truly start to remember building World Cup memories. Right, '94, and it was. There's something to being a Brazilian national team that I feel like they've never really recovered from the 7-1 loss to Germany in 2014. I can't look at Brazil and say that I've looked at them as the powerhouse that I expect them to be really since that embarrassing loss that they suffered at the hand of the German on home soil in 2014.
Well, they used to be the Darth Vader, in world soccer, and Germany just said no, that's us actually, and it hasn't
David Luiz
changed
still having
since then.
nightmares about that one.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
For Haaland, I saw a lot of videos of the run up to the first goal he scored, the header. And he kind of, he's just kind of like walking around. It looks like he's disinterested.
Loping, yes.
Do you guys all know, like, he's doing this on purpose, right? He's purposely looking disengaged so that you give him that little inch of space. Like, oh, okay, now I got the avenue I want to run into, and he takes that as soon as the cross comes in. He takes that spot, like they built it out in a playbook, and then that second goal is just pure class. You're right. To think of a comp of a striker for him, it's hard because Cristiano Ronaldo had similar,
he liked to dribble there.
Yeah, he had the power, but like Haaland doesn't have the skill set, the feet maybe that Ronaldo does. He's just like a pure power, built like a linebacker, and can just out-muscle and do almost whatever he wants to center backs in the opposing box. There's just a real uncomparable size, speed, power, and killer instinct to his game that it almost does feel unicornish for Erling Haaland.
Well, and the power thing it gets misconstrued sometimes because people might just think you're talking about blowing the ball top bins. He can do that too. But I think the power slot goal, if you will, like along the ground, which, takes so much off a ball. And you see guys finesse, a slotted ball all the time. But he's able to do it better than most people can because he can do it with so much more power. He can see that window that most people, if they try to do it, the keeper's going to get across and make the save because it's too aggressive. But he's got the power along the deck to get that ball through, and we've seen it now countless times in this tournament. It's that to me is almost a more impressive goal. While it won't necessarily make the highlight reels like the top bins power shot, that power slotted ball is just incredible.
What a shot that was. Through the legs of the Brazilian defender and into just the inner side of the post. A brilliant goal, brilliant celebration. Brazil did get a consolation penalty kick goal, which Neymar was talking trash the whole way through it. But you know what? I think Norway's happy because they're moving on and you are not, which sets up a pretty incredible matchup. Norway and England. My prevailing thought with Norway is simply that they've got a good squad, but having Erling Haaland makes them a contender because, again, just that one moment in a match, if it's level going into the final 15-ish minutes and he's still out there, all he needs is that one little, that sliver of an opening to make something happen. And he alone, I still wouldn't call them a favorite over anybody like Spain or maybe anybody left in the final 8 after this, but he still gives them a chance, and he's purely turned them into a contender based on his talent as one of the world's best footballers.
Well, depending on how any match unfolds from here on in, yesterday's game is a perfect example that, he in a transition goal, he can help you. And then even if you happen to possess, like they did a lot of the time versus Brazil, and you're giving those crosses, what we called hopeful crosses for Mexico, they don't have a Haaland. Imagine Mexico's got an Erling Haaland. Guess what? Those hopeful crosses turn less hopeful, and they turn a lot more like tactics, as he's going to be able to, pull down some of those balls and actually get them on goal. So he is a secret weapon, and not so secret weapon. He's just an ace up your sleeve.
So a post-mortem here on Canada, our nation, and I have such a hard time with this, Blake, because Canada, did a lot of things that they've never done before. First win at a World Cup, first knockout stage win, obviously first time into the round of 16, and that's all really good, really positive. There's nothing you can take away. I feel like context is avoided if you just say that it was a historic run for Canada, given that Qatar was the first win. It's a team you're very much expected to beat. And even the first knockout win, hey, you still got to do it. And they beat South Africa. Germany didn't beat Paraguay. So, just because you're supposed to win doesn't mean you're going to. Canada still got the job done against South Africa. But I expected those wins. When the draw was laid out, I expected Canada to get their first win and get through the group stage in a 48-team World Cup. And you're, as a host, getting to be an A seed in your group. You should get through in that moment. And you should pass and beat South Africa when that ends up being your draw in the round of 32, a very favorable draw for Canada. So yes, these are all good things, but I'm not going to rest on a moral victory of, hey, we played a good 45 minutes against Morocco and gave them everything they could handle for those first 45 and be like, we were the better team and I'd rather be Canada than Morocco. No, because moving forward, everything was given to Canada, right? You get the easy group. You get luckily run into, even as a second place finisher in your group, you run into a very favorable matchup for the round of 32. You're not going to get gifted a spot into the next World Cup. You got to go through the crazy CONCACAF World Cup cycle again, and you're not going to be gifted an easy group into the next World Cup either. Everything Canada did was expected, but to grow from here, it's going to take a lot more work. And I think Jesse Marsch is up for the task, and the organization seems like it's in a better place maybe than it's ever been. But I've also been through a lot of times in Canada soccer where the organization has not lived up to its potential. And so that's always a worry in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I know. I feel really, I feel bad for being critical at all of a historic run at the World Cup, but there's still a lot that leaves me. And I love what this run did for Canada, especially for new fans that glommed on. Love it. So again, I'm torn to even critique this at all, but there's a lot that leaves me wanting. The two best players via resume were relative non-factors. I didn't think Jonathan David had a very good tournament outside of the hat trick against a 9-man Qatari squad. Didn't think Jonathan David had a good tournament. Alphonso Davies barely had a tournament. And those are the two guys that playing for the biggest clubs on the Canadian roster right now. So it's really unfortunate that is the case. As we said, the other two host nations, I thought, rose to the occasion. Even Mexico in defeat looked very good throughout this tournament. I don't know that Canada had many good spells. The 45 minutes versus Morocco was amongst the best spells, certainly at the tournament for Canada. But ultimately, it goes for naught. And my only hope, here's my silver lining to what I just said, though, is this, Dan, is that next time we don't have to couch their performances via history. They went on a reasonable run here, round of 16 and an expanded World Cup now is a pretty decent run. So we aren't measuring it against nothing now. Now we're measuring it against this, and I think that's a good amount of pressure now for this program to have going forward. Where the danger of going on this little bit of a run here is people will expect it now. And bowing out in the round of 32 will be seen as failure in 4 years' time. And I think that's a good thing because this is really going to press this program to be better. And an underreported thing on this so far, and it's not gobs of money, but again, Canada gets more dough, actual cash by making it this far. Money that can go to the players and remind them, hey, this is fun to come to the World Cup and make some extra dough. But it's also going to the program as well, things that can attract new players, take care of the players when they're under the care of this program. It's all good news for Canada in that regard, and we'll push them for 2030 for sure.
It's very exciting times in that sense. I am reminded that John Herdman, when he first took over the team, was like, "No, we're going to qualify for 2022," and we all laughed. Like, oh yeah, John, we haven't even made the hex in like 17 years. I think we can pump the brakes here on making it. And they did. Not only that, they won the CONCACAF qualifying cycle in the run up to 2022. They had signature wins against Mexico and the US, teams that they weren't supposed to beat, in that they punched above their weight in those matches. You had the Azteca, you had crazy moments that Canada soccer really just did not have. it's been a walk in the park so far for Jesse Marsch, right? Sure, the Copa, that was really impressive when he first took over, but you haven't had a whole lot to hang your hat on. You didn't have to go through CONCACAF qualifying. So this next cycle is going to be that much more difficult, a lot more expectations on this team moving forward, and that's going to play a factor. There's also the Alphonso Davies of it all. Now Davies did put out an Instagram post yesterday, and I think he did himself a lot of he answering questions after the match. I think that calmed some of the sentiments coming from a lot of casual fans that were wondering why the heck this guy wasn't playing for Canada, why he was sitting on the sidelines. This Instagram post helps that as well. This is a player that, Blake, you and I know he's always been committed to the country. We don't get to host a World Cup. We don't have a lot of these dual nationals committing to Canada if Alphonso Davies is not around. But you are blind. A lot of people are okay, maybe the wrong choice of words. But it's now been a very interesting relationship between Davies and Canada Soccer since he tore his ACL in March of 2025. His agent came out after, said that he felt forced or somewhat pressured into playing in that match, even though he was less than 100%. There was a clear MRI then, and he ended up tearing his ACL. Bayern was very upset about it. And now you come into this World Cup. He had a couple of back-to-back hamstring injuries coming off of, finally recovered from the ACL, and he only ends up playing 15 minutes. Jesse Marsch, after the Switzerland game, it was my decision. Didn't feel like he was ready to go. We're going to hold him out, and he's going to be stronger for it moving forward. I had to keep Alphonso off the pitch. He wanted to play, but I wouldn't let him. But after this match, different story. MRI was clear. His pathway to getting back on the field was on a linear trajectory. It was Alphonso's decision. He felt he wasn't ready to play or wasn't feeling right. And it felt like the coach kind of put it all on Davies more than he had prior to in the tournament. And I found that whole progression very interesting.
It's really difficult to know where the truth lies here in this story, and how much Bayern is interwoven into all that, whether it is explicit from Bayern to Davies, if it's just guilt tripping from Bayern to Davies. But ultimately, I do believe Davies has got a tricky hamstring. I do believe that it doesn't take much to trigger it. And I think we all know that if Davies subs on at the 60th minute in the game this weekend, and 10 minutes into that shift, he's pulling up lame, and there's still 25 odd minutes left in the match, and Canada's got to burn another substitution to get Davies off the pitch at that point. Like, he's not done his country a service for 12 minutes. And I think Davies saw that movie in his brain of, I'm not going to be the downfall of this. And because I don't have confidence in my body right now, and I will become the story if I go on and immediately have to come substituted off. Yeah. So, it's really easy for a nation used to hockey players playing with pain. This is not an equation for pain for Alphonso Davies. This is a tactical decision that he
doesn't trust his body right now. It's very obvious.
I mean, he sewers his team if he goes on selfishly. If he goes on, says, I can do this. But if he cannot physically run, I mean, you've screwed your team by taking away a substitution.
And we talked about it after the South Africa match, Blake. Like, those first few minutes, he looked great. And then it dipped pretty quickly. He stopped going into 50-50s. He wasn't sprinting in the same way. He wasn't engaged defensively on the defensive side of the pitch. All of those things were true after the South Africa match, to the point, I think, where we even said, like, I don't think it's a guarantee Davies plays against. I believe you said that here on the 90th minute. So, and he doesn't end up playing. So I think there is a lot of truth in the injury part of this for Davies, where, when you're running and you don't have a good hamstring that you feel confident in, it's hard. You're not going to be able to give your all in those moments. It's just there's a lot that's been going on, and ultimately it's going to come down to his teammates, who seem to be on Davies' side. Obviously, a lot of them speaking afterwards, saying that he was a very valuable piece to the whole project, even off the field, with tactical and different points of view that he was providing, even while being unable to play for this team, as he should as a captain. But I feel a lot of this could have been avoided if Canada and Jesse Marsh were more transparent and didn't try to control the message around Davies as much as they did. If they just said right from the get-go, we don't know how much our captain is going to be able to give us in this tournament, but he's here. He's trying to do everything he can to be on the field and give us anything he has, but he's still our captain. He's still a big part of this squad. We're going to have him here. I think a lot of what happened on Saturday could have been avoided if that message was delivered from the beginning and not twice declaring him available to play when he actually wasn't.
I think they could have cleaned up the narrative. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
All right. That's I've wasted a lot of breath on this today between off the roster.
A healthy recap of what we've seen. Yes.
Let's get into the two matches that are happening today. Now that we've run up almost all of our time, USA against Belgium. This is the red card that was suspended that has been rescinded and is now being appealed by Belgium, which brings up a lot of different question marks. You know, did Balogun deserve to get sent off? No, I don't think so. But did he get sent off? Yes. Does that is there an appeals process for FIFA in the World Cup? Not technically, but when the president gives the president of the United States gives the call to the president of FIFA and make sure that an appeal is heard or that the red card is looked at and rescinded, then it's going to be a problem. And the uproar from this story getting out yesterday has been wild to see, Blake.
There are two FIFA articles that actually explicitly say that, you know, it's punishable if politics tries to contact FIFA and influence decisions. That I mean, I think Nepal has been temporarily suspended by FIFA for just this sort of activity. You know, like this in itself contravenes FIFA, and yet here we are, and it is super messy. When the IOC is looking down its nose at you, you know you're in a bad place. And, you know, now they've opened up a whole can of worms with the Belgians filing an appeal. UEFA has jumped on board. France has said, okay, well, what about our yellow card to Michael Elise? You know, like we don't want to have him on the brink of a suspension. You know, like it is... It's lunacy, it's madness here, and it's detracting from what, as we said earlier, has been a great tournament on the pitch, but not unsurprisingly, being hosted in North America, the stuff off the pitch is maybe taking over here.
Yeah, it brings the sporting questions into it as well. It's not like these things don't happen. FIFA did make an exception for Cristiano Ronaldo, who's got a two-match ban suspended coming into this tournament. You know, so it has happened.
That was outside the World Cup, though, right?
It was
different mechanisms.
Different mechanisms. It was outside the World Cup, and an exception was made in that sense. So it's ugly. It probably I don't know where it goes from here as we currently stand, but there is UEFA's been pounding the drum on this. We've had England, all of the FAs pretty much out of Europe are on this, saying that this is unsporting, and we'll see where it develops from here. But in the end, we do have a USA versus Belgium match. US will be at full strength with Balogun in the lineup, and a Belgium team that, you know, outside of the final 20 plus minutes against, you know, their last match against Senegal, haven't looked good in this tournament, Blake.
No, if they pull this off, they will have been the phoenix rising from the ashes here, because this was the team that was supposed to be winning World Cups the last couple of cycles. Yeah. And for them to do it now when everybody thought they were too old and washed up and all that, I mean, that would be something. So they've
got every non-American cheering for them now.
Yes, exactly. They do have the world behind them now. Yes,
they got the whole world behind them as well. And today, Cristiano Ronaldo officially announcing that this will be his last World Cup. Had a pretty very candid availability with media yesterday. Called out some journalists that he thinks doesn't like him. Seems like he thinks everybody doesn't like him. He only sees the negative comments. But that's Cristiano Ronaldo. And Portugal, Spain. Portugal looking like the heavy underdog going into this one against Spain.
And it's funny, they were a bit of a pre-tournament darling. You know, they're too big a country to be called a dark horse, but you know, people that weren't taking Spain and France, they were saying, hey, you know, Portugal started to turn the page, bring in some younger players now. Watch them, watch Norway. And then once the tournament started, people started like, no, actually, it's not Portugal. It's not Portugal's. And then here they are. They're on the brink of the quarterfinals. So they continue sort of to ride this roller coaster of expectation. I mean, I think this should be Spain, given what we've seen in the round of 32 from Spain. But willing to watch this one and willing to be surprised that Portugal ends up reclaiming sort of their darling status.
That one is the earlier match today. And then, of course, USA-Belgium from Seattle a little bit later tonight. Any soccer fan knows how important a super sub is to the squad. When their number's called, they can change the game in an instant. One thing they shouldn't be able to change, though, is your bet. Thanks to Bet365. Sub on, play on. When a player you bet on leaves the field, now their sub stats count towards your bet. Because super subs deserve super promos. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. We've got a couple of plays for you today. I take a stroll down Narrative Street. If you're not betting on Fuller and Balogun to score a goal today, I don't know what you're doing, but this seems like the most obvious play of the day. Gets the call in from the president of the U.S. to have that red card rescinded. He better make good on that opportunity here today. And I've got Cristiano Ronaldo, not to score, but 2+ shots on target today against Spain. That one, we know Ronaldo's going to be starting because he always does, and he'll get a couple of looks at goal, I do imagine. Blake will be back tomorrow to recap those and the final 2 matches of the round of 16, including the defending champs. Thanks for this as always. Thanks for joining the live stream. If you enjoy this content, make sure to smash the like button. Also subscribe and get those notifications going so that way you never miss anything on the 90th Minute YouTube channel.